The massive ship times Hegemony's voice times floated in the dark space between stars. Its metal hull stretched for over a kilometer, covered in lights and communication towers. Inside the main command room, 12 different alien species sat around a circular table made of black stone. Szeth Kara adjusted his blue-scaled neck and looked at the screen showing a small yellow star. His 4 eyes focused on the third planet from that star, Earth. Such a simple name for what they believed was just another primitive world. "Begin transmission," Szeth Kara ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had done this many times before. The communication officer, a tall gray alien with 6 arms, pressed several buttons. Energy flowed through the ship's massive antenna array. The signal would take time to reach Earth. But Szeth Kara was patient. He had contacted 47 primitive worlds in his career. They all responded the same way. First came fear, then confusion. Finally, acceptance of galactic rule. "Signal sent, Council Leader," the officer reported. Szeth Kara nodded and turned to his advisors. War Prime Kethvar sat to his right. The Drakmori warrior was covered in thick red armor and carried scars from a dozen integration campaigns. Next to him sat Intelligence Director Yixtal, a small green creature whose large head held one of the most advanced brains in the galaxy. "Tell me about this Earth again," Szeth Kara said. Yixtal activated a holographic display. Earth appeared as a blue and green sphere, slowly spinning. Standard terrestrial world. Single large moon. The inhabitants call themselves humans. They achieved spaceflight only recently, using primitive chemical rockets. "What about their technology level?" asked Kethvar. "Basic fusion power. Simple computer systems. They have one small base on their moon and a few orbital stations, no faster than light capability detected. Intelligence estimates they are at least 200 years behind standard galactic technology." Szeth Kara smiled with his sharp teeth. "Perfect. Another easy integration. Klam, Szeth Kara, and Imam." The other council members nodded in agreement. These humans would join the galactic community whether they wanted to or not. It was for their own good. Of course, primitive species could not be trusted to develop safely on their own. Hours passed before the response came. The communication officer straightened in his chair. "Council Leader, we have a reply from Earth." Put it on the main screen. The display showed a simple room with white walls. A human female sat at a metal desk. She had dark hair pulled back and wore a blue uniform with strange symbols. Her skin was pale compared to most species they knew. "Greetings to the Galactic Supreme Council," the human said. Her voice was calm and steady. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of Luna Base Communications. We have received your transmission and appreciate this first contact between our peoples." Szeth Kara leaned forward. The human spoke galactic standard, though with an accent that suggested primitive translation software. "Continue. Human. Earth acknowledges the existence of galactic civilization and is honored by your contact. However, we request time to consult with our leadership council before responding to your integration offer. Our people need time to discuss this important decision." Several council members laughed quietly. Yixtal made notes on his datapad. This was exactly what primitive species always said. They thought they had a choice. "How much time do you require?" Szeth Kara asked, though he already knew what answer he would give. "We request 1 standard week to prepare our response and gather our leadership." "You have exactly 72 standard hours," Szeth Kara replied. "This is very generous. Most worlds receive only 24 hours to prepare for integration proceedings." Commander Chen's face showed no emotion. "We understand. Thank you for your patience. Earth will respond within your time frame." The transmission ended. The council chamber filled with quiet conversation. Szeth Kara stood and walked to the large window that showed the stars. "Another routine integration," said Kethvar. These humans seem more polite than most primitive species. Yes, agreed Yixtal. Though I noticed something interesting. Their communication technology is more advanced than our initial reports suggested. The signal clarity was excellent. Probably salvaged alien technology, suggested another council member. Primitive worlds sometimes find crashed ships or abandoned equipment. Zethkara nodded. It does not matter. In 72 hours, Earth will submit or face the consequences. Prepare the integration fleet. Standard deployment. How many ships? Asked Kethvar. 20 should be enough for a world of this size. These humans have no real military capability. Meanwhile, on Earth's moon, Commander Chen sat in her communication room. The moment the transmission ended, she pressed a red button on her desk. Alarms began ringing throughout Luna Base. This is Commander Chen, she said into her microphone. Protocol 7 is now active. Repeat. Protocol 7 is active. All stations confirm receipt. Responses came back immediately from locations across the solar system. Mars base confirmed. Europa station confirmed. The asteroid belt mining facilities confirmed. Even the research stations near Jupiter and Saturn confirmed. But these were not the confirmations that mattered most. Deep in the asteroid belt, objects that looked like ordinary rocks began to change. Metal panels slid open. Weapon systems powered up. Communication arrays extended like deadly flowers blooming in space. On Earth's far side, hidden bases that had been built into mountains sent their own confirmations. Underground factories that had been running for 50 years increased their production schedules. In orbit around Earth, space stations that appeared to be simple communication relays began internal preparations. Their true purpose would soon be revealed. Commander Chen looked at her screens, showing confirmation signals from across the solar system. Green lights indicated that humanity's real defenses were ready. Systems that had been prepared for exactly this moment were coming online. She thought about the alien who called himself Zethkara. He seemed so confident, so sure that humans were primitive and helpless. It was almost sad how wrong he was. 72 hours. That was more than enough time. Chen opened a secure communication channel to Earth's surface. This is Luna Base. Reporting successful first contact with hostile galactic government. Integration demand received as expected. Recommend immediate activation of all defensive protocols. Confirmed, Luna Base, came the reply from deep beneath Earth's surface. All systems are green. Humanity is ready. Chen smiled as she looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the aliens were preparing for what they thought would be an easy conquest. They were about to learn why that was a very bad idea. 50 years of preparation. 50 years of watching, learning, and building. The aliens had sent their message to Earth, thinking humans were primitive and helpless. They had never been more wrong about anything in their lives. 72 hours passed like a slow countdown to war. Aboard the Times, Hegemony's voice asterisk, Zethkara sat in his command chair, watching the timer on his screen reach 0. Around him, the council chamber buzzed with quiet conversation as representatives from 12 alien civilizations waited for Earth's response. Time, announced the communication officer. Open a channel to Earth, Zethkara ordered. The main screen activated, showing the same white room as before. Commander Sarah Chen sat at her metal desk, but something was different. Her uniform looked cleaner, and her posture was more formal. Behind her, other humans in military uniforms could be seen moving through the background. Council Leader Zethkara, Chen said with a polite nod. Thank you for your patience during our deliberation period. Present your integration documents, Zethkara replied. He expected to see the standard submission forms that every primitive world eventually produced. Chen's expression remained calm. After careful consideration, Earth respectfully declines integration into the galactic community at this time. We prefer to remain an independent world while establishing peaceful trade and diplomatic relations with all galactic civilizations. The council chamber exploded into shocked voices. Representatives stood up from their seats. Yixtal dropped his datapad. Even War Prime Kethvar's red armor seemed to darken with anger. "Silence!" Zeth Kara roared. The chamber went quiet. He turned back to the screen, his 4 eyes burning with rage. "Human, you do not understand. Integration is not optional. It is required for the safety of the galaxy. We understand your position," Chen replied. "However, Earth chooses to remain independent. We offer friendship and trade, but we will not submit to outside rule." Kethvar stood up, his armor clanking. "Council leader, no primitive world has ever refused integration. This cannot be allowed." Zeth Kara held up a hand to quiet the warrior. "Human, perhaps you do not fully understand the consequences of your decision. Allow me to educate you." The transmission switched to recorded footage from previous integration campaigns. The screen showed massive ships firing energy beams at planetary surfaces. Cities turned to glass. Oceans boiled away. Entire continents were reduced to smoking craters. Kepler 442b. Zeth Kara narrated as the destruction played. They refused integration. This was their capital city. The footage changed to show orbital bombardment. Tau Ceti Prime. They also chose resistance. Finally, the screen showed a dead world with no atmosphere. Proxima Centauri. See, they forced us to remove their atmosphere entirely. 3 billion inhabitants died in the process. The footage ended, returning to the council chamber. "Do you understand now, human? Submit or face complete annihilation." During this transmission, Intelligence Director Yixtal noticed something strange on his sensors. Several objects in Earth's outer solar system had moved slightly. When he checked the records, they had been catalogued as asteroids during their initial system survey. "Sensor error," he muttered to himself. "Must be natural orbital drift." On the screen, Commander Chen watched the footage without showing any emotion. When it finished, she looked directly at Zeth Kara. "Thank you for that demonstration of galactic military capability. Earth appreciates your willingness to share information." "Then you will submit?" Zeth Kara demanded. "No," Chen replied calmly. "However, we would like to offer our own demonstration. If the Council has time, we would like to show humanity's contribution to galactic civilization." The Council members looked at each other in confusion. What could a primitive world possibly demonstrate to advanced civilizations? "Very well," Zeth Kara said. "Show us your primitive technology." The transmission switched to what appeared to be a construction site in space. Several humans in basic spacesuits were working around a large asteroid. They used simple tools to assemble a metal platform on the asteroid's surface. The work looked crude and inefficient. Council members began laughing. "Look at those primitive suits," one said. "They are still using mechanical tools," added another. The humans on screen finished their construction and moved away from the platform. Suddenly, the simple metal frame began to unfold. What had looked like basic construction was actually a complex machine that had been disguised as simple assembly work. The laughter in the council chamber stopped. The platform continued unfolding until it became a massive railgun system. Energy readings spiked as the weapon charged. The asteroid itself began to accelerate, pulled forward by forces the council's sensors could barely detect. "Impossible," whispered Yixtal. "Those energy readings." The asteroid reached 15% of light speed in less than 30 seconds. It fired into empty space like a bullet from the universe's largest gun. The projectile traveled across the solar system and struck a distant dead planet with the force of 100 fusion bombs. The explosion lit up space. Even from millions of kilometers away, the flash was visible on the Council's sensors. The transmission returned to Commander Chen. "Humanity possesses adequate defensive capabilities. she said in the same calm voice. We hope the Council will choose wisdom in their next decision. Earth offers peaceful coexistence to all who respect our sovereignty. The screen went dark. The council chamber sat in complete silence. Zeth Kara stared at the blank screen, his mind trying to process what he had just seen. A primitive world had just demonstrated technology that surpassed most galactic civilizations. How? He whispered. War Prime Kethvar slammed his armored fist on the table. It was a trick. Salvaged alien technology. They found some ancient weapons platform and learned to operate it. The energy signatures were unknown. Yixtal said quietly. This was not any technology in our databases. It doesn't matter, Kethvar shouted. They showed us one weapon. One. They spent everything they had on that demonstration. They are bluffing. Other council members began nodding. It made sense. No primitive world could develop such advanced weapons without building massive industrial complexes first. Earth showed no signs of large-scale military production. The War Prime is correct, Zeth Kara decided. They found one piece of advanced technology and used it to threaten us. But one weapon cannot defend an entire world. Shall I prepare the fleet? Kethvar asked eagerly. Yes. Full battle deployment. 47 ships. We will show these humans what real military power looks like. As the council members filed out to prepare for war, none of them noticed the final readings on Yixtal's sensors. The asteroids that had moved in Earth's outer system were not asteroids at all. They were weapons platforms that had been hiding in plain sight for decades. Back on Luna Base, Commander Chen watched her screens as the alien fleet began moving toward Earth. She pressed another button on her desk. This is Luna Base to all stations, she announced. Enemy fleet approaching. Estimated arrival in 36 hours. All defensive positions prepare for combat operations. Across the solar system, humanity's true defenses came online. Weapons that had been disguised as mining equipment powered up their targeting systems. Ships that looked like cargo haulers revealed their hidden weapon banks. Space stations that seemed like simple communication relays unfolded into fortress-sized battle platforms. 50 years of preparation was about to be tested. The aliens thought they were attacking a primitive world with one lucky weapon. They were flying into the most sophisticated defensive network ever built by any civilization in galactic history. Chen smiled as she watched the approaching fleet on her sensors. Come on then, she whispered to herself. Let's see who's really primitive. War Prime Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship Times Iron Conquest Asterisk, watching 46 other warships move through space toward Earth. Each vessel represented the combined military might of 6 different galactic civilizations. In his long career, this fleet had never faced serious resistance. Status report, he ordered. All ships report ready for combat, replied his tactical officer. Estimated arrival at Earth in 18 hours. Kethvar nodded and activated the fleet communication system. This is War Prime Kethvar, to all vessels. Today, we add another world to our great civilization. These humans made the mistake of threatening the galactic order. We will show them the price of such arrogance. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the fleet's progress on public communication channels. The conquest of Earth had become entertainment, a demonstration of what happened to worlds that refused galactic rule. Council leader Zeth Kara had personally authorized the broadcast. Let every primitive world see what happens to those who defy the galactic community, he announced from the safety of his command ship. As the fleet moved closer to Earth's solar system, scouts reported exactly what intelligence had predicted. Earth's defenses looked pathetic compared to galactic standards. A few small space stations orbited the planet. Several patrol craft moved between the inner worlds, but they appeared to be converted mining vessels. Sensor readings confirm initial intelligence reports, announced the scout commander. Enemy fleet consists of approximately 30 vessels, none larger than our escort ships. No dreadnought-class vessels detected. Kethvar allowed himself a satisfied growl. These humans learned to build one impressive weapon, but they have no real military. This will be over quickly. End. However, as the galactic fleet entered the outer solar system, strange things began happening. The first sign of trouble came when 3 scout ships simply vanished from communication. Status of Scout Group Alpha? Kethvar demanded. Unknown. War Prime. They stopped responding 12 minutes ago. Last position was near the outer asteroid belt. Send a search team. When the search team reached the last known position of the missing scouts, they found empty space. No wreckage. No distress beacons. Only trace amounts of unknown radiation that their sensors could not identify. Impossible, muttered the search team leader. Ships don't just disappear. The fleet's advance slowed as more scouts failed to report in. Kethvar found himself dealing with something no galactic military manual had prepared him for. An enemy that could eliminate his ships without any visible weapons or warning. War Prime, called his sensor officer. I'm detecting multiple contacts in the asteroid belt. They appear to be asteroids, but what? Their positions have changed since our initial system scan. Asteroids. Don't move that quickly. Without external force. On the main display, hundreds of objects that had been catalogued as space rocks began revealing their true nature. Metal panels slid open on their surfaces. Weapon systems emerged like flowers blooming in the darkness. Communication arrays extended from hidden compartments. The Kuiper Belt defense grid had been activated. By the void, whispered Kethvar as he realized the scale of humanity's deception. Those aren't asteroids. They're weapon platforms. Each platform was the size of a small moon, hollowed out and converted into a fortress that had been hiding in plain sight for decades. The humans had taken natural asteroids and turned them into the largest defensive network ever built. All ships, combat formation. The battle began before his ships could respond. Invisible beams struck 3 dreadnoughts simultaneously. The massive vessels, each 1 kilometer long, simply ceased to exist. No explosion. No debris. They were there one moment and gone the next. What are they using? Demanded Kethvar. Unknown energy type. His weapons officer replied. It appears to manipulate matter. At the molecular level, more galactic ships died as Earth's true defenses revealed themselves. The small patrol craft that had seemed so primitive suddenly demonstrated faster-than-light capability. They appeared and disappeared around the galactic fleet like ghosts, striking and vanishing before return fire could target them. The orbital stations around Earth unfolded into massive railgun arrays. Projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed began hammering the galactic fleet from impossible distances. Each shot carried the kinetic energy of a nuclear weapon. Fleet status, Kethvar shouted over the alarms filling his bridge. 15 ships destroyed, 8 more heavily damaged. The humans are using technologies we've never encountered. Most terrifying of all were the gravity weapons. Galactic ships found themselves pulled apart by forces that bent space itself. Some vessels were crushed into balls of twisted metal. Others were stretched until they snapped like rubber bands. Impossible. No species develops these capabilities without massive industrial infrastructure. Where are their shipyards? Their factories? The answer came as Earth's actual fleet revealed itself. Ships that had been hiding behind the planet's moon emerged from concealment. They were enormous, dwarfing even the largest galactic dreadnoughts. Worse, their designs were completely unknown to galactic science. War Prime, his communication officer called out. Incoming transmission from Earth. Commander Chen appeared on the screen, but she was no longer alone. Behind her stood several other humans in military uniforms. The simple communication room had been replaced by what appeared to be a vast command center. War Prime Kethvar, she said calmly. You are trespassing in human territory. Withdraw your forces immediately, or face complete destruction. You are bluffing, Kethvar snarled. No primitive world possesses such capabilities. We are not a primitive world, replied a new voice. The camera shifted to show an older human male with gray hair and steady eyes. His uniform carried symbols that indicated high rank. I am Admiral Jin Watanabe, Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. We have been monitoring galactic civilization for 50 years. Your integration campaigns, your military tactics, your technological capabilities. We know everything about you. The Admiral gestured to screens behind him showing detailed information about every ship in Kethvar's fleet. We know the armor thickness of your dreadnoughts. We know the shield frequencies of your cruisers. We know the exact location of every critical system on every vessel you brought to our system. Kethvar felt something cold crawl up his spine. That's impossible. Your species believes that any civilization capable of advanced technology must build obvious infrastructure, massive cities, enormous shipyards, visible military installations. Admiral Watanabe smiled. You never considered that a species might choose to hide their capabilities. The display switched to show images of Earth's real industrial capacity, underground factories that stretched for hundreds of kilometers, shipyards built inside hollowed-out asteroids, research facilities hidden in the depths of gas giant moons. We have been preparing for this moment since we first detected galactic transmissions 50 years ago, the Admiral continued. Every integration campaign you conducted was monitored. Every tactical doctrine you employed was studied. Every weakness in your technology was identified and exploited. Kethvar's fleet was dying around him. More than half his ships were gone, destroyed by weapons that his civilization had never imagined possible. This is surrender demand, he announced desperately. I offer terms for. No? Admiral Watanabe interrupted. You came here to conquer our world, to enslave our people, to destroy our civilization. The time for negotiation ended when you entered our system with a war fleet. Around the galactic fleet, space began to distort. Human ships that had somehow arrived ahead of them blocked every escape route. The retreating alien vessels found themselves trapped in a cage of Earth's creation. Withdraw to the edge of our system, the Admiral ordered. You have 1 hour to leave human space. Any vessel remaining after that deadline will be destroyed. The transmission ended. Kethvar stared at the blank screen, his mind struggling to process the scale of his defeat. In less than 6 hours, the mightiest fleet in galactic history had been reduced to a handful of survivors. War Prime, his sensor officer whispered. Long-range sensors are detecting human vessels throughout Council space. They're already positioned at strategic targets across the galaxy. The humans had not just defended their world. They had already won the war before it began. Kethvar began transmitting desperate messages to the Galactic Council, but deep in his heart, he knew the truth. The galaxy had just learned that humanity was not prey. Humanity was the apex predator, and they had been hunting in the dark for 50 years. The emergency session of the Galactic Supreme Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 12 civilizations spoke over each other in a dozen different languages as reports flooded in from across known space. The council chamber that had been so confident just hours earlier now buzzed with panic and confusion. Council leader Zeth Kara slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor. Silence. We will address this crisis in order. Intelligence Director Yixtal stood at the central display, his green skin pale with shock. Council leader, the reports are unprecedented. Human vessels have been detected in every major star system across galactic space. How is that possible? Demanded Representative Vorth of the Centauri Republic. No species can move fleets across the galaxy in hours. They didn't move the fleets, Yixtal replied quietly. They were already there. Our intelligence suggests these vessels have been in position for years, possibly decades. The main display showed a map of galactic civilization. Red dots marked human ship positions. There were hundreds of them, positioned at critical infrastructure points throughout Council space. "They've been watching us," whispered Trade Minister Kelpna. "All this time, they've been watching and planning." Zethkara felt his four hearts beating rapidly. "What about our military installations? Our shipyards? All under observation. Human vessels are holding position at every major military facility. They haven't attacked, but the message is clear. They could cripple our entire military infrastructure within hours." Suddenly, every communication screen in the chamber activated simultaneously. The face of Admiral Jin Watanabe appeared on all displays, speaking directly to the galactic leadership. "Members of the Galactic Supreme Council," he began with formal politeness. "I am Admiral Watanabe, of Earth Defense Command. I believe we need to discuss recent events." "How are you accessing our secure channels?" Zethkara demanded. "The same way we've been accessing them for 50 years, the Admiral replied calmly. "Your communication networks have never been secure from human observation. We know every message you send, every order you give, every plan you make." Representative Corvin of the warrior clans stood up angrily. "This is impossible. No primitive species could develop such capabilities." Admiral Watanabe's expression didn't change. "You keep using that word, primitive. I don't think you understand what it means." The display behind the Admiral changed to show Earth's surface from space. But instead of the simple blue and green world they expected, the planet was covered in lights. Massive structures reached into space. Industrial complexes sprawled across continents. "This is Earth as it actually exists," the Admiral explained. "Not the illusion we showed your scouts. We have been deliberately presenting ourselves as primitive, to avoid premature contact while completing our preparations." The images shifted to show underground cities that stretched for hundreds of kilometers, manufacturing facilities that produced more ships in a day than most galactic civilizations built in a year, research laboratories where humans had been developing technologies that the Council had never imagined. 50 years ago, we detected your galactic communication networks," Admiral Watanabe continued. "We studied your languages, your cultures, your military capabilities, and your history of integration campaigns. We realized that contact was inevitable, so we prepared for every possible scenario." Zethkara found his voice. "You deliberately deceived us, made us believe you were helpless." "We made you believe what you wanted to believe," the Admiral corrected. "You saw chemical rockets and assumed we had no advanced propulsion. You saw a single moon base and assumed we had no space infrastructure. You saw simple communication arrays and assumed we had no advanced technology." The display showed Earth's real space infrastructure. Massive shipyards hidden behind the planet's moon. Orbital factories that produced exotic materials. Defense platforms that made the asteroid belt installations look small. "You never looked deeper because you never considered that a species might choose to hide their true capabilities," Admiral Watanabe said. "You assumed that all advanced civilizations must display their power openly." War Prime Kethvar's broken voice came through the emergency communication channel. "Council leader, human vessels are escorting my surviving ships to the edge of their system. They're allowing us to leave, but their message is clear. Any attempt to return will result in complete annihilation." "How many ships did we lose?" Zethkara asked, though he dreaded the answer. 39 dreadnoughts destroyed, 8 escort vessels eliminated, 4 cruisers heavily damaged. "We lost 80% of the galactic fleet in less than 6 hours. The council chamber fell silent. The mightiest military force in galactic history had been crushed by a species they had considered primitive. Admiral Watanabe spoke again. "You may wonder why we allowed any of your ships to escape. The answer is simple. We want you to deliver a message to the rest of the galaxy. Aver, The display showed human ships positioned throughout galactic space, not just near military targets, but at trade centers, communication hubs, and population centers. The scope of human reach was staggering. Earth offers the galaxy two choices, the Admiral announced. Peaceful coexistence under new terms, or subjugation under human authority. These are the only options. You cannot threaten the entire galaxy, shouted Representative Vorth. We are not threatening anyone. Admiral Watanabe replied calmly. We are stating a simple fact. Galactic civilization has proven it cannot govern itself peacefully. Your integration campaigns have killed billions of sentient beings. Your wars have destroyed entire star systems. Your arrogance nearly led to the genocide of humanity. The Admiral's expression hardened. We will not allow that to continue. Intelligence Director Yixtal raised his hand nervously. What exactly are you proposing? The Galactic Council will continue to manage civilian governance, trade relations, and cultural exchange, Admiral Watanabe explained. However, military authority now rests with humanity. No civilization may wage war against another. No integration campaigns will be permitted. No species will be forced into galactic membership. And if we refuse? Zethkara asked. The Admiral smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Then you will discover why humanity became the dominant species on a world where everything was trying to kill us. Suddenly, every communication relay in galactic space went silent. For 6 hours, galactic civilization experienced complete communication blackout. No messages could be sent between worlds. No emergency signals could reach their destinations. The galaxy was blind, deaf, and helpless. When communications restored, a single message played on repeat on every channel throughout galactic space. Earth offers peaceful coexistence to all civilizations willing to respect human sovereignty. Those who choose aggression will discover why humanity survived as the dominant species on a death world. The message was transmitted in every known galactic language simultaneously. More importantly, it was transmitted on frequencies and using methods that no council civilization had developed. The humans had not just accessed galactic communication networks, they had taken complete control of them. Representative Corvin stood up slowly. How long have you been able to do this? Since approximately 1 month after we detected your first transmissions 50 years ago, Admiral Watanabe replied. We cracked your encryption, mapped your networks, and gained administrative access to your entire communication infrastructure. You never knew we were there. The terrifying implications settled over the council chamber. For 50 years, humanity had been listening to every secret message, every military order, every classified intelligence report. They knew everything. We studied every integration campaign you conducted, the Admiral continued. We analyzed every tactical doctrine you employed. We identified every weakness in your technology and every flaw in your strategies. When you arrived at Earth, you were not facing a primitive world. You were facing an enemy that knew you better than you knew yourselves. Trade Minister Kelpna spoke in a shaking voice. What happens now? Now, the galaxy learns to live in peace, Admiral Watanabe replied. You have 48 hours to transmit acceptance of the new terms. Any civilization that refuses will find themselves unable to communicate, trade, or travel beyond their home system. And if everyone accepts? Zethkara asked. Then humanity will ensure that peace is maintained. We never wanted to rule the galaxy. We just wanted to ensure that no one would ever again threaten our home. But since the galaxy has proven it cannot govern itself peacefully, humanity will provide the stability you lack. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Zethkara looked around at the other representatives. Fear, shock, and resignation showed on every face. Motion to accept human terms? He asked quietly. Every hand in the chamber rose in agreement. The galaxy had a new guardian. Whether it wanted one or not. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Commander Sarah Chen sat in her communication room on Luna Base. The simple white walls and basic metal desk remained unchanged, but everything else about the galaxy had transformed completely. Her communication board showed incoming signals from dozens of star systems, trade requests from the Altarian Republic, diplomatic messages from the Centauri Federation, peace negotiations between the Drakmori Empire and their former enemies. All of them addressed their messages to Earth with the respectful tone of civilizations that had learned the price of arrogance. Chen activated her first communication of the day. The screen showed Captain Yun Min Jun aboard the human patrol ship times Silent Guardian **. Behind him, the bridge looked more like a research vessel than a warship, but Chen knew the ship's true capabilities. "Status report, Captain," she requested. "All quiet in the Vega sector," Captain Yun replied. The hegemony attempt to restart their weapons program was stopped before it began. They have agreed to redirect their resources toward medical research instead. Any resistance? None. When we showed them the footage from their weapons facilities on Kepler 438b, they became very cooperative. Chen nodded. The hegemony had tried to secretly develop new weapons to challenge human authority. They discovered that humanity had been monitoring their facilities since before construction began. Nothing happened in galactic space without human knowledge. "Continue patrol operations," Chen ordered. "Report any unusual activity." The transmission ended, replaced by another communication from halfway across the galaxy. This one showed Dr. Sarah Kim, aboard the research station times New Horizon times, in the Proxima Centauri system. "Commander Chen, we have completed the atmospheric restoration project on Proxima Centauri C," Dr. Kim reported. "The planet will be habitable again within 10 years. Chen smiled. Proxima Centauri C was the world the Galactic Council had stripped of its atmosphere as punishment for refusing integration. 3 billion people had died in that act of genocide. Now humanity was undoing that crime. "Excellent work, Doctor. How are the survivors responding?" "They're still in shock that anyone would help them, Doctor," Kim replied. "Most galactic species ignored their plight for decades. They can't believe humanity is investing resources to fix what the Council destroyed." This was part of Earth's new approach to galactic governance. Instead of ruling through fear alone, humanity was demonstrating that cooperation brought benefits. Worlds that had suffered under Council oppression were being helped. Civilizations that embraced peace found their technology advancing rapidly through human assistance. Chen's next communication came from Admiral Watanabe himself. He was aboard the command ship times Terra's Voice **, stationed near the galactic core where the old Council headquarters had been. "Status report, Admiral," Chen said formally. "The transition continues smoothly," Admiral Watanabe replied. "Former Council leader Zeth Kara has been surprisingly helpful in establishing the new civilian government structure. And military resistance? Practically non-existent. The few civilizations that initially refused our terms changed their minds quickly when they realized the scope of our capabilities." Chen understood what he meant. Humanity had demonstrated their reach by simultaneously disabling every military facility in 3 different star systems. The targets had been chosen carefully. Civilizations that had committed the worst atrocities during integration campaigns. Their weapons were simply turned off remotely, leaving their ships powerless and their soldiers helpless. No shots were fired. No lives were lost. "What about the independence movements?" Chen asked. "Growing stronger each day. 47 worlds have declared independence from their former overlords in the past month alone. Most are species that were forcibly integrated decades ago." Admiral Watanabe's expression became thoughtful. "It's interesting how quickly the galaxy is reorganizing itself when freed from the Council's oppression. Trade routes are becoming more efficient. Scientific cooperation is increasing. Several species are working together to solve problems that have plagued them for centuries." Chen wasn't surprised. Humans had studied galactic civilization for 50 years. They understood that most conflicts were created or maintained by the Council's need to divide and conquer. Remove that pressure, and natural cooperation emerged. "Sir, there's one more thing," Chen said. "We've received a request from the Zephyrian Trade Alliance. They want to establish a formal diplomatic embassy on Earth. First one to ask for that honor," Admiral Watanabe noted. "What do you think? They've been consistently peaceful since the transition began. Their trade practices are fair, and they've helped several smaller civilizations improve their infrastructure. I recommend approval." "Agreed. Schedule a formal ceremony. Let the galaxy see that cooperation with humanity brings real benefits." The transmission ended, replaced by one final communication. This one came from Lieutenant Park Seo-jun, stationed aboard a monitoring post in the Outer Rim territories. "Commander, we have an interesting situation developing," Lieutenant Park reported. "The Corvan warrior clans have officially disbanded their military caste system. They're requesting human assistance in transitioning to a peaceful society." Chen raised an eyebrow. The Corvan were among the most militaristic species in the galaxy. They had built their entire civilization around conquest and warfare. "What changed their minds?" she asked. "According to their new civilian leadership, they realized that humanity represents everything they thought they wanted to become: the ultimate warriors. But instead of using that power for conquest, we use it to protect the weak and maintain peace." Lieutenant Park paused. "They said they want to learn how to be strong without being cruel." Chen felt a moment of pride. This was what Admiral Watanabe had hoped for when he chose to spare the galactic civilizations instead of conquering them. Humanity was teaching the galaxy that true strength came from restraint, not aggression. Approve their request, Chen decided. Send a cultural liaison team to help with their transition. As the communications ended, Chen looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships maintained silent watch over a galaxy that was learning to live in peace. Not because they were forced to, but because they were finally free to choose cooperation over conflict. Her communication board chimed with an incoming signal. The screen showed a young alien, with blue skin and large eyes. Chen recognized her as Representative Zara of the Kepler 452 system, one of the newest members of what was now called the Galactic Cooperative. "Commander Chen," Zara said with obvious nervousness. "I wanted to thank Earth for the medical supplies you sent to our colonies. The plague that was killing our children. Your medicine stopped it completely." "Zara," Zara said. "Zara. Zara. We were happy to help," Chen replied. "No child should suffer when we have the ability to heal them. I wanted you to know that before Earth's intervention, the old council told us that species like mine were expendable, that our lives didn't matter because we had nothing valuable to trade." Zara's voice grew stronger. "But humanity treats us as equals. You save our children even though we can offer nothing in return. You defend our right to exist freely even though we are small and weak." Chen smiled gently. "Every sentient life has value. That's not negotiable." "I understand now why the galaxy fears you," Zara said. "But I also understand why so many of us have come to love you as well." The transmission ended, leaving Chen alone with her thoughts. Fear and love. That was humanity's legacy to the galaxy. Fear from those who would harm others. Love from those who had been harmed and found protection under human authority. Chen's communication board showed hundreds of incoming signals from across the galaxy. Trade requests, diplomatic proposals, requests for assistance, and reports from human monitoring stations. The work of maintaining galactic peace never ended. But as she began responding to each signal, Commander Chen felt satisfaction in knowing that humanity had chosen the difficult path. They could have simply conquered the galaxy and ruled through terror. Instead, they had chosen to be guardians. The galaxy was learning to live without war, without oppression, without the fear that had defined galactic civilization for thousands of years. Outside her window, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, no longer threatened by alien conquest. Around the solar system, human defense platforms maintained their eternal watch. And throughout the galaxy, human ships ensured that peace prevailed. The aliens had sent their galactic hail to Earth, expecting to find another primitive world to conquer. Instead, they found humanity, and the galaxy would never be the same again.